Welcome back to part 6 of our little PICO-8 Boulder Dash video series, and in this video we are going to actually add gravity, which makes this very Boulder Dashy, and shit falls down. It always does. So let's get right to it. The first thing we have to do is we have to create a huge map with state machines for every item on the screen. So if we see this here, this will be 120/80 pixels wide and 64 pixels high. So for every map tile on the screen, we have to check if this has a gravity, and if it has a gravity, if it's moving for at least one cycle, and if there is now some free space, we have to give it gravity. So we have to add gravity and let it fall down. Yeah, that is pretty complex, so let's get into code and see how that works. The first thing to do is, if we would check with every update, which is here, we would check 30 times a second, our update map function, which checks for gravity and stuff, stuff would just fall down like a guillotine. So no player would have a chance. So we need to bring in a little time buffer, and we will only update every third round of update. And for that we have to do our own timing. Since PICO-8 has no real timer, the only thing we can do is we can rely on that update is called 30 times a second. And if we call update map every time update is called, this will be called 30 times a second. So what we do is we go in our map function and we add two variables. The first is update map timer, which is the number of cycles we want to wait until we update the velocity or gravity map. And the second is update map counter, which we count up every time our update map function is called. So if this update map counter is the same or bigger than update map timer, then we do a real update of the gravity map, else we just skip that. And we need another variable, and that is a PICO-8 table. And that table will store in a two-dimensional way, so a lot of rows of 128 values, the actual state of gravity. And we call this thing a gravity map. And since this is a table, this is how we create it. It's a bit more complex to do two-dimensional tables, so let's quickly do that now. So to create this gravity map, we need a function, or I do it in a function, and that function is called create gravity map. And what we do here is we say for y equals 0 to 63 do. So we have a loop that is repeated 64 times for the y coordinates. So we create 64 rows, and we create 64 rows of gravity map. And inside this gravity map, or first up here, we create 64 rows of another array. And then we go and fill this array with values and we say gravity map at y x. So we have a two-dimensional system. We select a row and a column, and we just say false. So for now, this gravity map is completely false. Nothing is moving. All is static, and that is just like we want it. And then we create two functions to set the gravity in this map. And for that we call this set gravity, and that has an x and a y coordinate. And we call this falling, which is a Boolean. And what we do is, that is just a convenience method or convenience function to do the same like above. And we say yx, and so we can just set gravity for a specific tile using this function. And then we have another function which is the opposite of that, which is Getgravity, which just returns the gravity for a specific tile on the map. And that returns gravity map at yx. Check if all is running. Yep. Okay, so we don't see any effect yet. This is just preparation. So we have a gravity map where we can store values and we can put values in and get values out. Since this is a function, we have to call this function somewhere, and we do this in our init map function down here. So let's run this again, and as you can see, no errors, so our gravity map is now in place, it's working. So before we do anything else, we have one spot in our canMove function. Oh no, it was an update player, right? So I have to do one thing in update player, which is in our player file. And I have a place here which says do gravity stuff. And what we want to do is, we want to set gravity to false if we pick up a diamond. So ux uy -1. And that's important because if we don't do this, we kill the player every time he grabs a diamond under a rock. Took me a while to find that specific mistake in my programming and fix this, because my player always died when I took a diamond from under a rock. So that fixes this, and so this is all done now. And now we can concentrate on our gravity, which happens all in just one function. That function is our update map function, which is right here. We have the function stub already. So this function is already called in our update function right here, 30 times a second. Down here you can see it. And the first thing we do is we increase our update map counter by 1. Remember, the update map counter is counted up until it hits the update map timer, and if the map counter hits the timer or is bigger than that, then we do an update of our gravity map so that it isn't too fast. And that is exactly what we check next. If update map counter is bigger than update map timer, then update map counter is reset. And now we do a lot of stuff in this function. So what we do now is we take this gravity map and we go to all the lines and all the columns. So 64 lines by 128 columns. And for that we do for y, bracket, 63,0, and you see it's not 0 to 63 because we start at the bottom. If we start at the top, we don't get the right kind of gravity. So we go from the bottom up and we check if a rock can move down, and if it can move down, then we go to the next line and we check if the rock above can move down. If it can move down, we move down. If we would go the other way around and we would start at the top, we would check if this rock can drop down, and it probably can't because there's a rock below, and only if we come to the next line, that rock would drop, and then we would have to do a complete cycle to drop the rock above that rock, and it would take ages to go and completely drop all the rocks. So what we do is we reverse the cycle, and for that we have to tell PICO-8 that we want to go -1 instead of 1. So this tells PICO-8 which kind of step we want to do. And we do the same for the x coordinate, which is, and here we can go from 0 to 127. It's not a problem if you go from left to right, because shit falls just down and not left or right. So we have that. And then we go and grab us some tiles based on our current position through these iterations. We go and grab the tile at the current XY position, and we have to grab a few tiles around that to do what Boulder Dash does. Drop a rock, let it fall to the left or the right of another rock, and all that stuff. So we say tile, which is the tile we are actually at right now. Then we get the tile below, which we call tile below, which is get x and y plus 1, because we are going down, and top is 0, and the if we want to go down, we have to go y1 down. Then we have tile below left, which is the tile in a 90-degree angle from the tile we are now. We are here and we want this tile. And then we want the tile on the other side, which is the tile below right. So we have, again, mget, and we get x minus 1, y plus 1, because we are going 1 to the left and 1 down, and 1 to the left is x minus 1, and 1 down is y plus 1. And we do the same for right. So we go get the below right, which is x plus 1, y plus 1. And if we have a rock here and we want to drop it here, we have to check if the tile next to the rock is also free, because we can't drop a rock if there's soil. So we check these tiles too, and that is tile left, and that is x minus 1, comma y, and we have the tile to the right, which is mget x plus 1, comma y. So now we have all the tiles we need to actually implement the gravity that exists in Boulder Dash. And now it's getting a bit more complicated, because we have to check all these occurrences, and we have to cross-check if a rock can fall there and there and there and there. And I will try to explain as good as I can, but it's a bit to take in. The first thing we check is if a tile has gravity. So if it has this flag set, and this flag is set in the sprite editor, and it's this little button here, and right now this diamond and this rock has gravity. So that is the stuff we want to check, and if it has gravity, then we do some testing, else we just skip the tile, because we don't want to check for a soil tile which can't fall at all. or a wall which is static. So let's check this first. We're here. So if fget of tile, which is the tile up here, which we are right now checking, has gravity. So this fget is the method which checks for a flag, which is that over here. And it checks if this flag number 7, which we have set up here, 7. So if this tile up here has this flag set, then this fget function returns true. And if that is the case, then we want to do something. And then we want to check for a lot of stuff. Let's first do the first thing, that is check if player got hit. So if the player got hit, we want to know that. We check if tile below is empty. So that is tile number 0, which is the empty tile up here. So if the tile below our tile is empty, and our player is at that below position, so y plus 1. So if the tile below is empty and the player is at that position below where we are standing, and let's say we are checking for a rock right now, then we want to check if the rock has gravity, because if it doesn't have gravity, so it is not moving down, then nothing happens, because if you collect a diamond that is under a rock, that rock should not have gravity or velocity, and it shouldn't kill the player. It should only kill the player if the player goes under a rock that is falling down right now. So we check if there is a tile below empty, nothing is there, but the player is there, then we go and check if get gravity. We check if we have gravity at our current tile, which is the rock, for example. Then we want to set game active to false. Remember, we have a variable created which is game active, which is active if the game is running. And if the game is running, we draw all that stuff, so the player, the map, and all that stuff. And if it's false, so if the game is ended, we just print game over. So for now, that is all we want to see. If the player gets hit, he dies, game over. Nothing more, nothing less. So that is that. That should kill the player, which is nice. And that is already good, because now we can theoretically die, but we have nothing that is in motion or has gravity. So now let's bring things into motion. And for that, let's quickly check if the thing is still running. No, we have an error. Then expected near game active. Let's go then here. Now it works again. And you can see I can move under the rock and don't die. And if we take that line away, you will see that whenever I move under a rock, the game's over. So that is why we have a gravity map. We will check if we can set a rock in motion or a diamond in motion. And let's call this can this drop. And for that, say else if, put this up here, tile is, tile below. So if we have a rock here and we check the tile below, and that is empty. And is player at that position, so that is the X position is the same, but the Y position is +1, so it's below. If the player is not there, so we just have an empty space, then pretty much take the tile from above and move it one down. So we say mset x, y +1. So we go to the field below and we put the tile there. And we say mset x, y, where we are now, and we put an empty tile. And now comes the fun part. So now we have just moved a tile below. Let's see that. We're missing the end here. So as you can see, if I type run, you can see that a rock is falling from. So that works. Now let's try this here, and that works too. See? But I can't die. So we have to do that later, but stuff is falling down, which is pretty nice. And I can't die because stuff doesn't have velocity, or gravity, I called it. Velocity might have been the better term, but still. So what we have to do now is we have to say that we just dropped something, and we have to set velocity to that tile. So we say gravity, really, in my case. Say set gravity for the tile that is below, which is the rock right now, and we set it to true. So now we know that rock was just moved and is in motion. So if I go under that now, I die. So that is pretty much the basic stuff that happens. Shit falls down. But there's more to Boulder Dash than that, and that is that stuff can fall to the left and the right if there is the space for that. And let's do that now. So we go here again and we say else if, and that is a combination of more than just one thing, which is if tile below left is empty. So we go down one and left, and we check if that tile is free. And yeah, let's do this a little clearer to read. So I will not do a super long if statement here. I will do two statements so that you can read this better. So if the left below space is free, and is player at x -1, y +1 at that same position, so he's not there, if that is false, then we do another if statement. If tile left is empty and is player at x -1 and on the, so if we want to check if we can drop a rock here, we have to check if the tile here left from the rock is also free and no player is there. So these two fields have to be free so that a rock can drop down. We check if this is false, then then we can drop the rock to the left. Let's do this. So we say mset, we take, we put the tile on the new position, which is x -1, 1 to the left, and 1 down. So we quickly, so we drop the rock to the left. No, it's y +1, of course. And we put the tile there. Then we go and put the empty tile where we are right now, because the rock is moving down, so it's gone here and appears here. And we give it gravity. And we do set gravity because it's now falling, so it can kill someone. We set this to the rock we just moved down here. So y plus 1. And that is that. Let's check. So if I go here and I go up, that rock drops. Nice. Same here. Ah! That was close. And the same should be here. Yeah, as you see, that works. But it doesn't work to the right. So to do this to the right, we just copy this whole block and say if tile below right is empty and the player is not at x minus 1 but x plus 1, and if tile right is empty and player is not at x plus 1, then set the tile to the right and set the gravity to the right. And now this should also work on the other side. That wasn't clever. Now it's all going down. Okay, let's check this here. Yeah, works. Now we have to reset all the gravity so that a tile that is in motion actually gets stopped if it is not in motion. It seems a bit strange, but if you don't do this, you will always be killed. So let's say else set gravity at x, y false. So this tile is not in motion. Let's try this again. Now we can move. Oh, that's not correct. Just saw that I missed 2 spots where this should be true. So let's set this to true. And let's check again. So this rock is not falling because we have this strange not empty tile here. Let's put this here, and then that rock should fall too. Bam, it does. Okay, and that is game over. Okay, so this marks the end of part 6 of our PICO-8 Boulder Dash series. Thanks for watching, and until next time. Bye.
Thank you for watching Retro is the New Black. If you are new to the channel, please like and subscribe. If you like the video, please share. Every like, share, and comment helps a lot. Until next time, bye-bye.